Cloud computing is the on-demand delivery of IT resources via the internet, with pay-as-you-go pricing. Instead of buying, owning, and maintaining physical data centers and servers, you can access technology services such as computing power, storage, and databases on an as-needed basis from a cloud provider like Amazon Web Services. Organizations of every type, size, and industry are using the cloud for a wide variety of use cases, such as data backup, disaster recovery, email, virtual desktops, software development and testing, big data analytics, and customer-facing web applications. For example, healthcare companies are using the cloud to develop more personalized treatments for patients. Financial services companies are using the cloud to power real-time fraud detection and prevention. And video game makers are using the cloud to deliver online games to millions of players around the world. With cloud computing, your business can become more agile, reduce costs, instantly scale, and deploy globally in minutes. Cloud computing gives you instant access to a broad range of technologies so you can innovate faster and build nearly anything you can imagine. From infrastructure services such as compute, storage, and databases, to Internet of Things, machine learning, data analytics, and much more. You can deploy technology services in a matter of minutes and get from idea to implementation several orders of magnitude faster than before. This gives you the freedom to experiment and test new ideas to differentiate customer experiences and transform your business, such as adding machine learning and intelligence to your applications in order to personalize experiences for your customers and improve their engagement. You don't need to make large upfront investments in hardware and overpay for capacity you don't use. Instead, you can trade capital expense for variable expense and only pay for IT as you consume it. With cloud computing, you access resources from the cloud in real time, as they're needed. You can scale these resources up and down to grow or shrink capacity instantly as your business needs change. Cloud computing also makes it easy to expand to new regions and deploy globally in minutes. For example, Amazon Web Services has infrastructure all over the world, so you're able to deploy your application in multiple physical locations in just a few clicks. Putting applications in closer proximity to end users reduces latency and improves their experience. No matter your location, size, or industry, the cloud frees you from managing infrastructure and data centers so you can focus on what matters most to your business. Cloud computing is the on-demand delivery of IT resources via the internet, with pay-as-you-go pricing. Instead of buying, owning, and maintaining physical data centers and servers, you can access technology services such as computing power, storage, and databases on an as-needed basis from a cloud provider like Amazon Web Services. Organizations of every type, size, and industry are using the cloud for a wide variety of use cases, such as data backup, disaster recovery, email, virtual desktops, software development and testing, big data analytics, and customer-facing web applications. For example, healthcare companies are using the cloud to develop more personalized treatments for patients. Financial services companies are using the cloud to power real-time fraud detection and prevention. And video game makers are using the cloud to deliver online games to millions of players around the world. With cloud computing, your business can become more agile, reduce costs, instantly scale, and deploy globally in minutes. Cloud computing gives you instant access to a broad range of technologies so you can innovate faster and build nearly anything you can imagine. From infrastructure services such as compute, storage, and databases, to Internet of Things, machine learning, data analytics, and much more. You can deploy technology services in a matter of minutes and get from idea to implementation several orders of magnitude faster than before. This gives you the freedom to experiment and test new ideas to differentiate customer experiences and transform your business, such as adding machine learning and intelligence to your applications in order to personalize experiences for your customers and improve their engagement. You don't need to make large upfront investments in hardware and overpay for capacity you don't use. Instead, you can trade capital expense for variable expense and only pay for IT as you consume it. With cloud computing, you access resources from the cloud in real time, as they're needed. You can scale these resources up and down to grow or shrink capacity instantly as your business needs change. Cloud computing also makes it easy to expand to new regions and deploy globally in minutes. For example, Amazon Web Services has infrastructure all over the world, so you're able to deploy your application in multiple physical locations in just a few clicks. Putting applications in closer proximity to end users reduces latency and improves their experience. No matter your location, size, or industry, the cloud frees you from managing infrastructure and data centers so you can focus on what matters most to your business. Cloud computing is the on-demand delivery of IT resources via the internet, with pay-as-you-go pricing. Instead of buying, owning, and maintaining physical data centers and servers, you can access technology services such as computing power, storage, and databases on an as-needed basis from a cloud provider like Amazon Web Services. Organizations of every type, size, and industry are using the cloud for a wide variety of use cases, such as data backup, disaster recovery, email, virtual desktops, software development and testing, big data analytics, and customer-facing web applications. For example, healthcare companies are using the cloud to develop more personalized treatments for patients. Financial services companies are using the cloud to power real-time fraud detection and prevention. And video game makers are using the cloud to deliver online games to millions of players around the world. With cloud computing, your business can become more agile, reduce costs, instantly scale, and deploy globally in minutes. Cloud computing gives you instant access to a broad range of technologies so you can innovate faster and build nearly anything you can imagine. From infrastructure services such as compute, storage, and databases, to Internet of Things, machine learning, data analytics, and much more. You can deploy technology services in a matter of minutes and get from idea to implementation several orders of magnitude faster than before. This gives you the freedom to experiment and test new ideas to differentiate customer experiences and transform your business, such as adding machine learning and intelligence to your applications in order to personalize experiences for your customers and improve their engagement. You don't need to make large upfront investments in hardware and overpay for capacity you don't use. Instead, you can trade capital expense for variable expense and only pay for IT as you consume it. With cloud computing, you access resources from the cloud in real time, as they're needed. You can scale these resources up and down to grow or shrink capacity instantly as your business needs change. Cloud computing also makes it easy to expand to new regions and deploy globally in minutes. For example, Amazon Web Services has infrastructure all over the world, so you're able to deploy your application in multiple physical locations in just a few clicks. Putting applications in closer proximity to end users reduces latency and improves their experience. No matter your location, size, or industry, the cloud frees you from managing infrastructure and data centers so you can focus on what matters most to your business.
safe again on a Saturday evening or day, wherever you are in the world. I'm Andesito de Guzman, the community lead for PWA Pilipinas, and I'm joined by... Ay, sabi pala. Joined by...
And hi, I'm Lem from PWA Pilipinas. Ayan.
Okay. Okay, so we have... Actually, no, let's give a shout out muna sa madaming students from PUP Maragondon. So, hello. Oh no, internet ko yata mabagal. So, okay.
Yeah.
Yan. Medyo mabagal net ko, no?
Ayan.
Ayan. Okay. Um, ayun. So,
Okay. Game.
before we begin, no, I'll be introducing our organization first. So, PWA Pilipinas, we are a community for makers, designers, and users of progressive web apps in the Philippines. Our mission is to introduce and nurture progressive web apps development and adoption in the Philippines and beyond by fostering a community for subject matter experts, enthusiasts, adopters, and developers of the platform, and by providing resources and engagement to stimulate interest in PWAs. Yeah. Because our vision is that PWAs would be adopted widely here in the Philippines. Yeah, wait, what's that PWA that I'm talking about? Well, progressive web apps are your web apps but supercharged with native app like features such as having the ability to be installed, work offline, and many more, and and work across all different types of devices. Yan. So, with that, thank you for 2 amazing years of joining us here at PWA Pilipinas, and hope na we would see you in our future events. Okay, so since we are celebrating our
Yep.
2-year anniversary, we have invited different speakers. So recently we have our basic stock that was from August 7 to 14, kapit lang internet. And we also had automating a service worker with Workbox 6 last August 18. Tapos tonight, tomorrow, and on the 28th, we still have talks. So if you wanted to join, stay tuned on our Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube channels. No. So we're also on LinkedIn as well. So for updates, and we also have a Discord server for updates.
Discord.
Just visit bit.ly /PWA-Discord. Yeah, we also have an app. Just visit app.pwapilipinas.org. It's on Google Play and Microsoft Store. So search na lang PWA Pilipinas to watch yung mga previous videos, current live na talks, and more. Yeah.
Yes.
So, we have our Facebook pages and groups, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram actually. Meron din kami. Yan. Okay. So, natin patagalin pa, no? I'm going to add on stage, tapos introduce natin yung ating speaker. Hello, Seiji.
Hi, Andre. Hi, Lem. Good evening.
Yan. So, introduce ka muna namin.
Ay.
So, our speaker is Seiji Villafranca. He is a graduate of Cum Laude with a degree of Bachelor of Science in Computer Science, Bachelor of Science in Computer Science at the University of Santo Tomas. He's currently a senior software engineer at SmartByte Malaysia. He's also an Auth0 ambassador and one of the community leaders of Angular PH, who is involved organizing tech meetups, mentorships, and has written tutorials in his own website, seijivillafranca.com. He has also been a speaker in several events and conferences in the Philippines and abroad. So, welcome here at our second year celebration, Seiji.
Thank you.
Hello. Yan, kakagaling lang namin kanina dun sa event ng Angular Philippines.
Yeah. Long time no see, Andre.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess we can start now.
Yeah. We can start na, no? Okay. So, yeah. Alright. So, good evening, everyone. Good evening, PWA Pilipinas. And good evening to all the students and professionals out there. So, thank you, Andre and Lem, ulit sa pag-introduce sa akin. And, ayan, I think wala nang paligoy-ligoy pa. Let's start our presentation or our topic for today. So, what's our topic for today? So, as you can see in my slide, Our topic is the power of microfrontend, developing apps into smaller components. So I will be discussing what is the use of microfrontend. Ano ba talaga yung naging evolution niya and ano ba yung mga naging benefits niya sa pagiging isang front-end developer. Okay. So, yeah, as Andre and them introduced me a while ago, first, I'm Seiji Villafranca. If you want to learn about my tutorials, you can visit my site, cgvillafranca.com. And I have also my GitHub, cgv13. You are free to pull everything that you need there kasi yung mga tutorials ko in cgvillafranca.com, connected siya sa github.com cgv13. And if you want to learn about JavaScript, React, Angular, nandyan lahat ng mga codes ko na ginagamit ko for tutorials at the same time. Yeah, I'm a senior software engineer in Smart Might Malaysia. Currently, I'm working in a startup in abroad. So I will be working there for for the next years. Ngayon, nasa Pilipinas pa ako because of the pandemic. But next year, I will be going abroad now in Malaysia. And kung curious kayo kung anong ginagawa ko, I'm doing their Angular, Node, and React Native. So I'm in web and mobile. And at the same time, I'm a PWA user also kasi as PWA offers, napaka-flexible ng technology na to. And I'm an Auth0 ambassador. What does an Auth0 ambassador do? Simply, we promote security in web development. So especially Auth0 tools na hindi natin kailangan pahirapan yung sarili natin in order for us to create our identity server. And as well as I'm also a community lead of Angular PH. Just like PWA Pilipinas, we also organize events, communities, and even meetups na for students and for developers, not just tutoring or not just teaching Angular, but also other stuffs like JavaScript and TypeScript. Okay, so these are just some of my talks. I've been through our Angular page, obviously my home community. I've also been a speaker to DevCon Philippines, React.js, Rock Squad community, or Rock Squad Design and Development. I've been also in international conferences like NG Up. NG Up is one of the biggest Angular conferences abroad. So it's in Tel Aviv, Israel. And I've been speaking to JavaScript and friends. So last Thursday night, nag-talk ako sa kanila in Columbus, Ohio, and SoftCon 2020. Every year to, na ito yung isa sa mga malalaking conference in the Philippines. And especially here in PWA Pilipinas. So it's my third time talking here, I guess, in PWA Pilipinas. Okay, so enough about my talk, enough about the chit-chat. And yeah, our common question is, what the heck is microfrontend? Ano ba talaga si microfrontend? We are familiar with frameworks na nag-emerge today like React, Angular, and Vue. Pero hanggang doon na lang ba ang kaya ni Angular or ni React or ni Vue or Svelte? And meron pa ba silang kayang ibang gawin to have a performance optimization? At the same time, kaya ba natin sila pagkabit-kabitin into one application? Okay. So, we have micro frontend, but hindi tayo dediretso sa micro frontend because the concept of micro frontend, saan ba talaga siya nanggaling? Nanggaling siya sa concepts ni microservices. Hey, micro means small. So it's basically it's in tiny bit of pieces. And micro web services, this term was first coined by Dr. Peter Rogers in 2005. But as I was saying, hindi to micro front-end, but microservices. We're not talking about front-end application or front-end development, but we are talking about implementing micro in services or web APIs. It's an architecture na nagsosolve ng monolithic architecture or yung monolithic dilemma. Monolithic means one big application. So mamaya, I will discuss later what is monolithic and what's the benefit also at the same time, especially what's the disadvantage of being a monolithic architecture. Early companies who adopted microservice architecture, simply Netflix. So si Netflix ngayon is gumagamit ng micro front-end architecture, even microservice architecture, since kasi lumalaki na nga yung applications nila. So basically, microservices, even micro front-ends are being used with enterprise application. And Amazon.com, they're also using their microservices, even micro front-end. Okay. Uh, One question is on microservices. What does it solve? So it solves the monolithic architecture or the monolithic dilemma. It is actually the common thing we do. So if we join a company or if we join other industry in the IT, currently na makita nating architecture is monolithic. So monolithic means one big project. So yung lahat ng kinocode natin or all the codes that we are doing for our application to run is nasa isang application lamang or nasa isang project. So meaning our project is just has a folder structure which it works uh, like one whole application. Then doon lang talaga natin lahat ng kinocode. So iniisip natin na isipin natin siya na parang isang repository lang na nandun lahat ng code natin for our application. So, for app, there's a sample graph or diagram na pwede nating tingnan kung ano ba talaga yung ginagawa or ano ba talaga yung structure ng isang monolithic architecture. So, for application 1, meron tayong service 1, service 2, and service 3. So, nasa server siya and we are developing it on the server and we are hosting it on a repository. So, technically, lahat ng mga services na ino-open natin or lahat ng mga endpoints na uh, in-expose natin for our front end is nasa isang application lang. So, and dinedeploy natin to into one server and at the same time, yung code niya is naka-host sa isang repository. Basically, that's what monolithic architecture means. So, it's like a big chunk. So, lahat ng nagko-code, lahat ng developers natin, dun gumagalaw sa application na yan. Okay, so yeah, that's the common thing we do in the industry. So ito yung talagang naging parang base. Ito yung naging start ng kung ano yung naging architecture natin in terms of development. But yeah, it's the common thing we do, but it doesn't say that it doesn't have an issue. So well, we know that it's a single code base, but when we think out of a box, so a big chunk can cause major problems in a single repository. So ano yung mga major problems na pwede nating ma-encounter when it comes to monolithic issue? First, basically it's debugging. Yeah, on the first parts of development, pwede nating masabi na our application is not yet that big and at the same time, hindi pa siya ganun ka-complicated. So I would not consider it as an enterprise application. So debugging and maintainability is not yet that of an issue. But in this case, if you have an enterprise applications, I guess monolithic architecture can cause some issues on developers, especially on these factors. And tight coupling. So tight coupling meaning all our components, all our or all of our codes are tightly coupled, meaning that if we change some of our code in some parts, maybe or majority of the codes can be also be changed, or at the same time they can be affected on that particular change. So other problems is deployment and restart time. So it's a monolithic architecture. So if we deploy the whole application, so all of our applications or all of other parts of our application will also restart. So that's one way. And next is the less reusability. So it's tightly coupled, meaning that we cannot reuse our other components or other parts of our project since it is compiled or it's a big chunk of app. Okay, so next. Yeah. So for example, we have code change that has errors. So that code change will be pushed in that particular repository. So it's in the application one. So it will be merged in our application one and all codes are affected. So that's one issue that monolithic architecture is facing in development. So yeah, debugging. Sometimes we do not know what is happening and it's a headache. It's like brain freeze in a moment. So this is one of the dilemmas that we are encountering and don't want like to be Sheldon Cooper at this time. Okay. So it really takes a lot of time in debugging when it comes to monolithic issue. So what solution that other developers or other enthusiasts had come up to? So they have come up on a solution that they can divide components into smaller fine components. So for example, this is the monolithic architecture or the monolithic big chunk of app. So they will divide it into small pieces of services. So in service 1, service 2, service 3, and service 4, so on, and depending on what are the relationships of each services. So this is what they call the single responsibility principle. So at the SRP. So you might ask me, ano ba yung mga common techniques or strategies? So paano nila may hiwalay ang service into another service? Okay, let's answer that later on. So, common design pattern. So, microservice, marami silang common design pattern. So, this is just one of the patterns that the industry is using in terms of building or developing a microservice. So, they have the client. Client is the application itself or the front-end application. Then, once na it will communicate in our back-end service, it will call an API gateway that will connect to our service. So we can see here that we don't develop the microservice or the backend service as a one big chunk of app. But in this design pattern, we can see that we have separated it into multiple services. So in this part, makikita natin na we have service 1, service 2, 3, and 4. And at the same time, each services has their own dedicated database. So makita natin na hiwalay-hiwalay na yung mga services natin in this case. And for your information, hindi rin sila naka-host sa sariling server or sa one single server, and at the same time, nasa iba't iba silang repository. In simplifying things, magkakaiba silang project. So, paano sila magko-communicate? This is what we call service discovery or what we call orchestration, and yung nagmamanage ng harmony or yung communication between the services. So, ito yung isa sa mga common design patterns, which is pinapakita lang na every service is they have a dedicated storage at the same time and single API gateway which connects as a bridge to each services. Okay, so another common design patterns is using the event bus. Actually, almost same siya, but this is more a complex queuing pattern. So what does event bus do is event bus allows the communication between services. So it's like an intercommunication which allows queuing. So the client still has a bridge called API gateway, and the API gateway calls in the event bus to retrieve the data being sent from the service. So kung sisilipin natin mabuti, we'll deep dive in event bus. Event bus is like a queuing system which it stores the services, what are the data needed by the services. So ito yung mga nire-request ni service, at the same time hihilahin ni service if a single service needs another data from another service. So that's just some of the common design patterns. And if you will research on microservices, maraming na create or na develop na patterns for microservice depending on the user's needs or the application needs. Okay. Yeah, so yeah, we're talking about microfrontends here. Yeah, why am I so interested in microservice? So probably you don't care about that anymore, and tataka kayo, bakit ba ako nagsasalita about microservice? That's just there's just one reason for that, because microfrontend came from the idea of microservices. So before became microfrontend, nagkaroon kasi talaga ng microservice, and dun na-adapt yung idea ng microfrontend. So kailan ba nagawa si microfrontend? So it came up in the ThoughtWorks technology reader at the end of 2016. So kung mapapansin nyo, medyo bago-bago pa lang yung technology ni microfrontend. So it's just running around 5 years. But when you go back on microservices, mapapansin natin na around 2005, meron na talaga tong idea na to, pero hindi pa siya na-incorporate sa front-end applications. Okay. So yeah, as I have said, microservice concepts going into front-end world. So inadapt na natin yung concept ni microservice papunta doon sa micro front-ends or what we call front-end applications. So it's a composition of features and which are owned by independent teams. So this is one of the goals of having micro front-ends. We have an enterprise application. They have their different functions. For example, in a banking application, so we have the online transfer, we have the credit cards, team. So ang naging reason nila to have microfrontends is to cause or to have the independency between the teams. So hindi magkakaroon ng mga conflicts or issues between the teams. So totally magkakaroon ng independence between. And it's what we call the self-contained system. So self-contained systems meaning the systems are totally independent from each other. So you have your if you have your online banking team, you have no dependency on other teams that are included in that project. Yeah. So I've just pulled this out from microfrontends.org. So ito yung common na ginagawa or common structure in our team or development team when it comes to monolithic structure. So we have the monolith. This is a sample. This is just an example of an application. In here, we have the shop. So for example, in Lazada to or Shopee, the shop team is composed of a front end, back end, and database. So this is the monolith. And if we divide it into two, so we have the front end team and the back end slash DevOps team. But if we incorporate the microservice in this monolithic architecture, so we can see that we have a whole front end team. So front end is still monolithic, but when we go back to the back end side, we can see that we have incorporated the microservices. So actually, it depends on their functions. We can see here that we have the product service, the reco service, basket service, and payment service. And we incorporate here the process or the common design patterns that we have seen a while ago. So maybe they are communicating through Eventbus or other queuing systems like RabbitMQ or Kafka. Okay. So now, a while ago, for the third diagram or third depiction of what the teams would be if they have incorporated the back end or the back end as a microservice. Now we've incorporated both front end and back end as a micro front end and microservices. So we can see that they have their own teams. So the team Inspire have their own front end and back end, and team search also, team product, and also team checkout. So basically now all of the teams that we have that have their own functions have the same or they have the independency with each other. Okay. So this is the revised design pattern when we incorporate microservices or at the same time microservices and micro frontend in our application. Makikita natin na it's not just the service who has independence with each other, but also the micro frontend. So here is the client itself. So it's composed of several micro frontend rather. In this case, in this example, we have 4 micro frontends. So it can run in different frameworks. So FYI, ang isa sa pinaka-advantage ng micro frontend, pwede silang iba-ibang framework. Angular, React, Vue, or whatever frameworks out there, pwede mo silang pagsamahin. And at the same time, they are not required to run on a single server. Si MF1, pwede siya mag-run in server 1. MF2, pwede siya mag-run kay server 2. At the same time, MF3, MF4, pwede natin siyang i-pull sa server 3 and server 4. But at the client side, makikita natin siya, isa lang siyang application. So we will not see where the application loads, but behind it, iba-ibang application yan na naka big chunk or naka-bundle into one big application. And at the same time, still, we have just concatenated this part. So our MF or micro front ends are just communicating with the gateways and microservices itself. And actually, in micro front ends, they have also their own orchestration or event bus. Okay, micro front ends now are really everywhere in the industry. Why? Because it offers really a lot of benefits, especially in terms of front end development. So one of the three of the benefits rather that micro front end offers is technology agnostic. Technology agnostic meaning that we are not tightly dependent in a specific technology. So for example, yung application natin hindi kailangan siya maging Angular as a specific Angular framework, hindi lang kailangan Angular lang siya. But we can also use other frameworks to be coupled with Angular like React and Vue.js. Number 2 is team code isolation. Yan, yung napakita natin na diagram a while ago, the concept of the independency of teams. So we have team code isolations and major benefits or the sub benefit of team code isolation is we will avoid some errors or some tightly coupling between the codes of different functions. And lastly is establish team prefixes. Actually, this is also the same with team code isolation. So In this case, mas ma-identify natin ano ba talaga yung ginagawa ng particular team in terms of micro frontend. Okay. One of the main questions that we are asking is micro frontend feasible on top and latest frameworks? Well, basically the answer is yes. I have mentioned a while ago na pwede natin pagsama-samahin yung mga top frameworks in just one big chunk of application. And Angular, Svelte, React, or whatever or other frameworks are out there, pwede natin siyang gamitin in terms of micro frontends. Okay. Micro frontend implementations. There are also different kinds of implementations when we are developing applications using micro frontend. So, these are just some. Meron pang iba na pwedeng gamitin in terms of micro frontend. But in this presentation, I will show you two ways on how to create micro frontend. Number one is iframes. Actually, that's considered micro frontend, but on my personal experience, I would not recommend that. Why? Number one is security, because pwede nating in just inspecting your browser, pwede nating ibahin yung mga links or mga source ng iframes. And at the same time, ang pinaka-disadvantage nito is orchestration between the applications. Iframes, it's really hard to maintain the communication between the micro frontends. Number two is web components, so Angular elements. Angular elements, it's like a reusable component, and Angular elements are really flexible. Why? We will not just use it on Angular itself. Pwede rin natin magamit to sa ibang frameworks like React and Vue. Number three is Angular libraries. Actually, I haven't include React also. It can be also a web component, Angular libraries and React libraries. So this is considered our micro front end. And number four, monorepos. So one example is NX, developed by Narwhal. So this is also a good concept in terms of micro frontend. It's like a repo that consists of several projects that you can reuse with each other. And number five is customized orchestrator. So I think this is one of the complex application of micro frontend. Okay. Another micro frontend implementation is bit.dev. So there are several components that are available in bit.dev that you can use on your application. So this is really useful in React.js applications because several developers are already developing reusable components for our application. So we will not just use it from scratch. And at the same time, it has its own CI/CD and pipelines. So it's actually almost a standalone component. So all of the codes are running from a different server, and you will just have to reuse its code. Okay, so as I have said, I will just show you two ways on how to implement micro frontend implementation. And yeah, in this micro frontend frameworks, the one way that I will use is single SPA, and the other one is Frint. I will not show you this part, but this is commonly used in React.js framework, and I think it's not yet available for other frameworks. I'm not sure, but I know that it is compatible with React. Single SPA, it's compatible with almost of the frameworks that, especially JavaScript frameworks that we are now using. So I will show single SPA on how we can implement or how we can set up our micro frontend using Angular and React. Okay. So first, I guess the thing that I will show for micro frontend implementation is using Angular elements. So what does Angular elements do? It simply helps us publish Angular components as custom elements. So it's just like a piece of Angular code. Actually, Angular code is also a JavaScript code. I-code natin siya in Angular framework, but we can take this out on our framework and use it everywhere. So it's just a simple JavaScript na pwede natin magamit sa iba't ibang framework, sa iba't ibang application. So it's the micro frontend itself. Okay. So just a basic diagram of what is happening when we are creating Angular elements. For example, we have this Angular code, and let's just treat this our framework that we will use to create the Angular element. Then, at the same time, if we push it on our code that has CI/CD, So our repository will build this Angular code, and it will concat all the JavaScript or necessary JavaScript files to create the Angular element. And at the same time, if we created the Angular elements now, if the CI/CD has successfully created the elements or the Angular elements, we can create this or we can use this into different frameworks already. And especially React or Vue, we can also use that. Even in plain JavaScript, we can also use Angular elements. And yeah, we can see that this is a micro front end, and actually React and Vue can also be a micro front end, and we can use it in a single JavaScript single plain JavaScript or vanilla JavaScript, and it has its own pipelines. So makita natin na it's really composing, our micro front end is composed of different applications, and at the same time pwedeng iba't ibang frameworks. Okay, so I will show you how to create the Angular front end for this part before we move on to single spot. Okay. So I'll share my other screen, which means I'll share my Visual Studio Code. Okay, so I'll share my Visual Studio Code for this one, and we will first create our Angular elements. So I'll just open a folder. Yep. Let's just generate a new Angular project. Lakayan ko lang ng onti yung code. And see what are the commands that we can generate, what that we can use in creating an Angular element. So simply, let's just name this Angular PO elements demo. So this is user defined, and let's just wait for our elements to be generated. So we know we don't need routing for this one, and let's just use SCSS. Okay. So let's just wait for around 2 minutes or 1 to 2 minutes. So let us let Angular do all the work. So pwede muna tayo uminom dito ng kape or anything. And we don't need really to set up anything for Angular framework, kasi meron na tayo Angular CLI, and it provides different schematics that will do all the work for you. Okay, yeah, that's fast. Let's try opening it. Right. So makita natin, we can see in our Visual Studio Code that Angular is being has been scaffolded successfully. So I will not just discuss all the files. So we can see here that we just have the things that we need. So let's just test if this is working. So this is just an Angular application. So nothing special about it, a simple Angular framework, but we will convert it into an Angular element. Let's just test if our application works. Okay. Compiling. Yeah, one of the scariest part in talking is waiting for an application to compile. This is a scary part because sometimes you might encounter an error and you don't know what to do. Okay, let's try. Okay, now our Angular application working, and we can convert it into an Angular element. Okay, so let's just stop this. So the first thing we need to install is web components. So to install web components, so let's just install for npmi at web components / web components JS. Okay. Or let's just use the add. So we don't, yeah, let's just use add. So we would not install it one by one. Yeah. Okay. Doesn't install. So right. Okay, document. So we can see as we install the web components, this part. So we can see here that our web components or web components JS has been added. Yeah. So actually we have also another command that is easier. I forgot to show you that. So it's ng-add at angular/elements. So it will also actually install the web components here. This is easier, so I will not install one by one the other dependencies that we need. So yeah, let's proceed. Let's just wait again for around 1 minute to 2 minutes. Okay. So now we have installed at Angular elements successfully. So we can see that some packages have been installed in order for us to create our Angular element. So one, so obviously Angular elements and web components JS, and document register element. And also it also added some imports in our polyfills document register element. So let's just add also the import for at web components. So web components JS slash what we call this. So custom elements. So custom slash elements ps5 slash adapter JS. So basically that's it. That's the things that we need. So for web components or Angular elements. Okay. So now I guess let's just create a table or a useful, reusable table that is made from Angular. So this is just simple. So let's create a component. Let's slide this up so you can see. So in creating a component in Angular for some developers are still learning Angular, so it's ng-gc or ng-generate component, and let's name this component Angular table. Okay. So we can see that we have our Angular table here, and let's just create some code for a table. It's just a simple HTML. So let's just create a hard coded for this one by PWA Pilipinas. And okay. Then title, or let's just say our event for today. Okay, that's just a simple table for an element. And yeah, let's use this or let's convert this into a simple Angular element. So how can we do that? So let's go to app.module.ts. So in this part, we can see here under we have the app module. So let's just place a constructor. So we will inject injector from Angular core. Then in this constructor, so we will define create custom element. Then the create custom element, so it will accept the component that we are planning to use as an Angular element. So in this case, we're using Angular table component, and it's the injector for this one. And at the same time, so how can we use this outside our JavaScript or our Angular? So we're gonna use custom elements, so that define. So we will define this element as, let's say, PWA Angular table. Then on this part, let's just have the table element as parameter. Then don't forget, in this case, we will always call the ngdo bootstrap. So actually, this will cause an error for us if we forget about this part. Okay. So basically, actually that's it on creating our Angular table. So next is we need to build this element, or we need to build this application in order for us to get the Angular element code. So in our package.json, so we can see here that we have some scripts. So let's try building it. So we have this build command. So let's just command it using np run build. So let's wait for it to be built. Okay. Let's just wait again for around 1 minute. Yeah, that's it. Okay. So we can see after we built the Angular elements, we have a new file named distribution folder. So this file. So all of our build code in plain.js is here. But we can see that we have some issues here. One issue is our JS files is currently separated. We have the main.js and polyfills, runtime, and styles. So in this case, I want this to be concatenated in my part. So what reason is for that is for easy referencing in the JavaScript file or the project or the micro project. At the same time, it's compact. And next problem here is it has hash. So we can see here in every build that we do, Angular concatenates a hash code in our application. So let's just solve that for a while. So the first thing we need to solve is the hash. So let's just add a build elements command. Then this command is ngbuild. So dash prod. So let's add prod. Then let's have the output hashing. Set it into none, and there. So we have set the prod and the output hashing for building the production into none. So if we build this element again, excuse me. So let's just generate a bundle. Hey, yeah. Oh, sorry, I actually commanded the wrong one. So instead of build, so let's build npm run build elements. Yeah, that's my bad, a mistake. So let's wait for that again. Okay, so we can see here in a distribution folder, so the build file. So we can see now that it has only named the JS files into main.js, polyfills, and runtime and style. So we don't have the hashing anymore. So the next thing is I want this to be concatenated automatically when we build the elements. So one strategy here is we use the concat and the fs extra. So I'll just install the dependency. So npm I concat and fs extra, and let's save it as a dev dependency. Okay. So after installing this one, we will just create a new file here named concat.js. This file will be responsible for concatenating our concatenating our JS files. So let's just have the installed. So fs extra, then concat equals var concat. Then we will have an asynchronous function here. So in this function, let's create the things that we need, or let's pull here the files that we need to concatenate. So here, sorry for the slippery hands. Okay. So inside, so let's just have the files. So the things that we need to concatenate here is inside the list. So where is it located? So it's under distribution and Angular PW elements demo. So let's just have that. So Angular PWA elements demo. Yeah, forgot the list. Then first one is the main.js. So next is just copy this one for faster coding. And the next is the polyfills. And next one is the main.js. Oh, runtime.js, sorry. Okay, so these are the three files that we need to concatenate. Then the next is, let's create the directory that where we will create our Angular elements. So let's have the await fs that, let's ensure the directory. So let's create the directory elements. Then let's concat the files. So we will, this array, so we will this we will place it as a parameter in our concat. So also we will concatenate each files. Then let's place it on a Angular table.js file. Okay. So if we have some uh, files or whatever CSS that we need, so fs.copy file, oops, but this Angular elements, oops, Angular p1 elements demo. Then the styles, we will get the styles.css, and we will also place it on the elements.styles.css. Okay, so yeah, so let's just have a recap of what I did. So I just collected all the files that we need to concatenate, mainly the main.js, polyfills, and runtime, and created a directory elements, and I will place the concatenated files in a single JavaScript file named Angular table. And for the fs and for the styles here, I will just uh, also copy the contents of the styles CSS into another styles CSS folder here. So let's just fix this one. This will cause issue when we're running. So how can we use this concat.js in our project? So we have created a while ago build elements. So in this case, let's just add another another command here. So let's command it node concat.js. So node concat.js, this is just the file that we have created. Okay, so let's just clean our code a while ago. So we don't need the app component here because this is actually Angular element, so it doesn't need a Bootstrap application in our Angular framework. So we're not going to use this also. So basically, let's just clean it for a while. Okay. So now let's run our application again. Okay. So let's just wait. Yeah. So 1 minute around. Yeah, less than 1 minute, I guess, in building this again. Okay, now it's done. So we can see here in our part that it created an Angular table JS and the styles SCSS. So we can see that we don't have the styles. Why? Because we didn't place any styles here, so we didn't copy anything. But in Angular table, so we can see that our code is now concatenated as an Angular element. So let's just use this Angular element in a simple HTML or simple project. So it's a basic HTML JavaScript file. So just create a preview folder here. So oops, why did I create a file? So create a folder preview and just create a file name index.html, I guess. So this is not yeah, I just paste it on a root Angular folder, but technically this preview part this is not related to Angular framework. So how can we use the Angular elements here? So let's just have the HTML tags and yeah, the body. What else? And yeah, I think that's it. So in this part, how can we use the Angular elements? Simple. So just basic programming. So in our HTML classes, so we will use it as simple JavaScript reference. So it's located at elements Angular under elements folder. So let's just have then let's access the elements and Angular table dot js. Okay. So yeah, we can access our Angular elements here in our simple HTML file. So how can we use it? So let's just have a recap on what we did a while ago. Let's have the app modules again. We can see here in app modules that we have defined our Angular table as PWA Angular table. We can now use this as the name of the tag itself. So if we go back into HTML, we can use this as PWA Angular table. Okay. Yeah. So this an information. This is not related to Angular. So even though that this is not an Angular application, a simple HTML file, this will work because of our reference in the elements folder, which contains the Angular element that we created. So let's try using this, or let's try visiting our Angular elements. I'll just preview it in an index HTML. Okay. So we can see here that this is a basic HTML. I've accessed it. I did not run it as an Angular application. We can see that our Angular element is working. We can see that it is properly projected in our UI. So yeah, we have created our Angular element. But next thing is I want this Angular element to be dynamic, same as Angular components behavior. We want the Angular element to have an input. We want the element to have an output at the same time. So how can we listen to the listeners that are coming from the table? Okay, so let's build another again. Let's just refactor the code in our Angular table. We want this to be refactored, or we want this to be reusable as much as possible. So I want the user in the HTML file to input data on this table. So our next thing to do is let's just place some input decorators in here. So in this case, I want the user to define the headers. So let's just define this as array, or yeah, I think that's enough. Then let's have the get headers list. So I'll define this as an array of string. Yeah, let's just make it strictly type. Same with the slippery hands. Okay. Let's just also define this an array of string. Then on this part, let's return the headers. So I'll explain why did I did this. So we have also the set header list. So let's create this later on. So I'll just place another input, I guess. So I'll just place an input for the list that we need to display. So I'll place this area as any because I don't know what data will be tried. So this should be flexible as much as possible. And input these properties. So array string also. Then let's just also add an action buttons. So let's try making this a type of button name string and action string. So we want to pass what kind of action that we are doing, and yeah, so basically that's it. And yeah, I think we need also an output for this one, and let's just call this an on click action button, then equals new event emitter. So it's an angular core. Let's just have the action. Okay. Then for the set headers, so I'm doing this because of we're using a plain JavaScript, so you will know why later. So let's try. So set header list. So the headers. I'll just check here if the type of the header is string. So we will, if the type of the headers or the input headers is string, so we will parse it. We will convert it into an object, a JSON object, then else we will return it as header itself if it's a JSON object already. Okay. Okay. So basically that's my settings for my Angular table, and let's just refactor our code in here. So we want to iterate the headers here that we are receiving. So in this case, let's try having a loop here. So what's the name of that one? So let header, or let's just say let data of headers. So where it's an array of strings, so let's just display it, and let's also display our buttons here as. So let's check if the user has feed this Angular table an action. So if the action buttons that length is greater than 0, so let's paste the action header. So did I name that right? Yeah, I named that right. So next, so let's iterate the list. So let data of list, and this one we will iterate also the properties. So ng4, let's just rename this. So let properties of list properties. So list properties, where did I get this one? So I'm just getting it here in the input part. So this is also giving the user to, or the developer, the capability to allow him or her to display the list properties needed in that table. So in this case, let's remove this one. So let's try data and name this into a singular and property. Okay, that's it. Forgot the interpolation. Okay. Then for the button, if we have the button, if the user has placed a button for this one, so td if action buttons dot length is greater than 0, so we will just display the series of buttons. So ng for let data of action buttons, then click. And we want to emit the action. So emit action button, then data that action. So we haven't created here the emit action button, so let's just copy this one. Create that. So the action string is that on click action button that emit, and we will just emit action. Okay. So we have created our Angular table dynamically as possible. So we are now allowing the JavaScript or the plain application, the plain HTML to receive, to input or feed data in this Angular at the same time to listen on the events. So in this case, let's build the elements again. Okay. So this is really the magic of Angular elements. Uh, we can actually use the Angular itself, or what's the features in just plain JavaScript, because actually it's also built in TypeScript, which is a superset of JavaScript. So we have now our newly built Angular element. So it's actually still pointing here in the Angular table.js. So we have our code already, the new code. So in this part, so how can we use this dynamic Angular table in our application? So as I have said a while ago, we can now feed data in our Angular table. So let's just have another script in this part. So I'll just have some sample data, for example. So I want the table or each record or for the table to have an action or an a buttons which has the name of edit and delete. So in this part, so we can have action buttons. So as we can see here that we need to pass a button name and action string of an object with type of button name and action string. So we can have here button name. So edit, then the action is edit. So let's just check if yeah, I forgot actually this one. So that's the name, button name. Yeah, we forgot to display the button name. Let's just build that. While it was building, let's continue on the code. And let's just have two buttons on our table, delete, then action, delete. And we should also feed some sample data on our part. So it's constant list. So let's just say I'll feed my personal information. Seiji. Uh, Job is software engineer. Then location, age. Okay. Then I want to display the name, the job, and the location of the data. So I'll just pass a list properties of name, then the job, and location. So let's have the table. So let's get the table itself. So let's get the table by the element ID. So I'll just reference it into like a Angular table. So let's just do it like that. So I'll get it. I'll get the tag or the DOM. Then let's feed it on our data on this table. So how can we feed the data? So simply we can access already our properties. So let's just go back on the Angular table itself again. So we have the action buttons, list properties, and list. So basically we can access that properties directly. So table.list equals list, table.action buttons equals action buttons. Then table dot list properties equals list properties. Okay, so let's try if it's working. We can see that I have successfully displayed the table itself. So yeah, I have a wrong spelling, so that's very bad of me. So we have other concerns on the table. So yeah, for okay. So we can see here that I have displayed the table properly with the data. So this data is not coming from the Angular framework itself, but it's coming from the plain JavaScript that we have developed. So yeah, we have displayed it proper. We have displayed it successfully on our plain JavaScript file using Angular element. So we have also created a button. How can the plain JavaScript listen to this particular button? So let's go back to the code. So in this part, we have the emit action button. So it's emitting outside the Angular element. So in this case, we can actually listen on the code itself. So how can we listen on the emitters of the code? So table has an add event listener. So what's the name of the add event listener? So the name of the add event listener is this on click action button. So this is the output decorator that we have defined a while ago. So in this case, let's go back to the index.html and let's try. So let's use lambda for this one. Then let's just try accessing it. So how can we access the value? So it's data.detail. Okay, so let's try again. Let's reload that. So if we edit this, so we can see in our console log that we are now listening outside the Angular element. So I can now catch what action is being executed in the Angular element outside this plain HTML and JavaScript file. So if I select delete, so I can also listen to that action. So in this case, actually, this is just one implementation. At the same time, we can also input our our data directly in our application. So one way is this one, headers list. So let's just copy this one. Oh, sorry, this is the name. Copy this and yeah. So instead of using double quote, let's just use single quote. So this one, you can use that header list. Sorry, I've copied the wrong. Yeah, actually, I didn't define the headers. So in this case, we can actually, sorry about that, I didn't define the header, so that's why it's missing. So we can also actually provide the um, the list directly in our Angular element. So that's the reason why a while ago I've created this set header list. So currently, for now, we can feed our headers list directly on our Angular element. So actually in plain JavaScript, so Angular element will detect this as a string. So we need to parse this unless it will cause an error. So in this case, let's try passing our headers. So name, so a job, location, and action. Okay. So yeah, sorry I forgot. We should not use the action because we have already created as automatic. Okay, so we can see here that our headers is also displayed successfully in our Angular elements. So yeah, we can also directly feed our data in our Angular elements. And that's it. We have successfully created our Angular elements from scratch, and it is considered as one of the best ways in creating micro front ends. Okay, so let's go back, and now let's have the second implementation in terms of creating micro front ends. Okay, so the next implementation that I will show is, instead of using Angular elements, we are using now single SPA. So it's a framework for bringing together multiple JavaScript front ends, and can also be used in different existing JavaScript frameworks. So technically, as I've shown you a while ago, I'm just creating an element or a micro front end using Angular. Now I will join two famous frameworks, namely Angular and React, in one single component using this framework, single SPA. Okay, so just to give you an idea, what's the concept behind single SPA. So the composition is, we have the container app. So this container app is like the main project application where we bundle all of our applications or all of our different frameworks. And at the same time, single applications are packaged up into modules. So yeah, it's a one-stop shop, so it's different it is composed of different frameworks, so we are not stuck or not tightly coupled in a single framework. Okay, so just an architecture for single SPA. This is actually the same architecture from a while ago in micro front end. So we have a micro front end that is three micro front ends, by the way, that is being hosted in different repositories, and each of them has different pipelines. So it's like a standalone application, and it is built into a single production, and it is bundled into the single or the micro root into a big chunk of application. Okay. So micro frontend has also its life cycles. So it has the front end framework that has three life cycle methods. So the three life cycle methods are bootstrap, mount, and unmount. So bootstrap, same with Angular and React, it's the one responsible for instantiating the application. So mount is to load the UI in the client browser on the parent, and unmount is to destroy the application itself. Okay. So how to enable our single SPA or our micro frontends in our root app? So basically, we will just call some functions, single SPA that register application, and after we register that specific micro frontend, we will start the single SPA. Okay, so the power of CLI, we also have schematics. Single SPA also have its own schematic, so you don't have to create your single SPA from scratch. And actually, it offers the different ways or different features already. Like you can generate your single SPA in different frameworks like Angular, React, and Vue, and you don't have to do it from scratch. Okay, so let's have the single SPA in action, and let's just create our single SPA. So this will be easier in terms of creating. So this will be short. So let's try opening some files again. So I will create two micro front ends. So this will be the Angular. One micro front end will be running on Angular, and one micro front end will be running on React. So okay. So as I have said a while ago, if you want to create single SPA, or how to use the CLI of single SPA, so let's just use npm install -g create single SPA. -g means global, so it will have a create single SPA command in your terminal. It will just add an environment variables in your terminal. So I've already installed it. So how can I use it? I just use it npx create single SPA, and name of your project. So I'll just name this Angular PWA single SPA. Okay, so we can see here that we have the type to generate. Let's just use the parcel. And yeah, you can see that single spa offers the scaffolding of different frameworks. So let's just use Angular here. And let's just name the project same. Angular PWA single spa. So no, yeah, let's just add some routing here. Excuse me. So let's just wait for our Angular spa to generate. So in this case, actually it's almost the same that just what I did a while ago. It's also creating an Angular application, but there's just a main difference. The difference is it has now the life cycles of single spa. So as I have discussed, it has the bootstrap, the mount, and the unmount. Okay, so let's not send some analytics to Google. We don't need that. Okay, so let's, yes. So it will install the single spa Angular automatically. So these are the dependencies that we need for creating our Angular single spa application. Yeah, like Angular routing. So for, let's run it on for 200. Okay, and now our application is created. Let's visit that one. So this is the Angular PWA single spa. Okay, so we can see here that yeah, actually it's definitely the same a while ago, but the difference here is we have some additional files. We have a webpack which is bundling our micro front end, but it's the one responsible for the bundling, and the single spa, which the main single spa, which allows us to have the life cycles of a current micro front end application. So we can see here that this is our it's like the main root or application, the main root of our template, and we also have the folders of assets under the single spa application. So with this one, actually, we don't need to edit some things. So I'll just show you how to mount this Angular in a single application. So what one thing that we only need to do is go to app.module.ts, and we will just provide the app base URL. So our app base href, let's just use the base path, and technically that's it. So we don't have to do anything in our Angular, and it's now ready for using it as a micro front end. So in our package.json, you can see here that we have also additional commands in terms of using the micro front end. So ngserve, we are not going to use this one, but we are going to use the serve single spa Angular PWA single spa. So what is this command technically doing? So it has a live reload, and it's basically creating the distribution file for the micro frontend itself. So let's use this one. So npm run serve, and let's run our application. Okay. So it's not running. Angular PWA. So our package. So let's try again. Oops, sorry, I wrong folder on this one. So this is the folder. So I need to traverse another folder. So let's try to run that again. Okay, there. So there's an error. Cannot find module Angular builders custom webpack. So let's try npm. having npm install on this one. So let's try running. Okay. So after we successfully run this application, this microfront application for Angular, we will now generate our microfrontend using React. So I'll just create, or I just open another VS Code. This one. So yeah, our application is running successfully, our Angular microfrontend. So in this case, I'll just create another microfrontend, but now it's on React framework. So let's have also, so same command that we are using. So npx create single spa, then React pwa single spa. Okay, so we are now using React for this one, and let's just use npm. Let's use the TypeScript. Let's use pwa Pilipinas. Use that one, and project name is React pwa single spa. Okay. Excuse me. So let's just wait for our React application to be generated. All right, so our application is now generated. So let's go to our app. So it's a React pwa single spa. Okay, so we can see that we have our React application being generated, and at the same time, it has the same additional files compared to Angular. So it also defines some life cycles. So our life cycles here is also bootstrap, mount, and unmount. So it has an additional React single spa.tsx, and it defines also other dependencies that needs for our microfrontend to run. So it's the React and React DOM itself. So in this case, in React part, we have nothing to do actually to just for us to mount it on our application. So in our part, let's just have the packages JSON. Let's just have a sneak peek. So we can see here that we have also additional scripts that we can use. So let's just use the start standalone, meaning that we can run this microfront end alone, and it is deployed in another server. So in order for us to run that, npm run start standalone. Okay, now let's just wait for our application to run. So now we have two micro frontends running. The first one is the Angular application, which is under the 4200 port, and we have this React JS application, which is under the 8080 port. So let's just try visiting this 8080. So yeah, this is now mounted on our application. Let's just make this different. So let's just change the label. So let's make the React JS as the footer. So this is the footer I'm created with React JS. Okay, now let's edit our Angular. So our Angular is currently displaying the default placeholder for that one. So let's just display it like this one. So I'm a header. Yes, I'm the header. So I am created in Angular. Okay, so now we have both two front ends running in our terminal. So the next thing that we need to do is let's just create the chunk or the micro root for our application. Where can we bundle these two applications? So in this part, let's open another application here. So actually I've created already because this will take around time. So this is our micro root. So actually I've already created this. I'll just explain what are the dependencies that I have added for us to chunk or to bundle our React and Angular application. Excuse me. So in this case, I've just added some dependencies, the single spa JS from Cloudflare. So I've used CDN and core JS bundle for minifying the bundles, and import maps for me to import the applications from the microfrontend. So these are the other dependencies that we are using. So in this case, we are currently running two microfrontends. So I want my microfrontends to be bundled in this application. So in this first part, what will I do is now I'll import. Then as I have queued a while ago that our Angular should be the header. So let's get that Angular project. So it's HTTP running on HTTP localhost for 200. Then main.js. So this main.js, if you are asking where did I get that, so we can it's actually here's in our application in Angular. So it's the main single spa.ts. So it's being bundled in this case as we build the Angular micro frontend. So going back, so we are now getting this micro frontend. Then our footer is the React. So it's localhost 8080. Then the name of the project itself is what we need. So let's try running it just as standalone. Or okay. So let's try running it. So in order for us to get that, let's run the start. Okay, so no issues found. Okay, so see that. Okay, so we can see here that this is our uh, JavaScript file. So we'll just copy this one and let's go here. Oops, I've copied all of the link. Okay, and that's good. So let's go back and run React.js as a standalone again. And in this part, we just need another dependency from single spa. So yes, I'll just copy this one. It's kind of long. So you can just copy here in my repository. So if you need this dependencies, so it's actually I me myself I don't memorize all the dependencies. And yeah, we have already imported our React micro frontend and our Angular frontend. So how can we use this part in our application. So as I said a while ago, so we need just to call the register application. At the same time, we will start the micro front ends. So let's just import all of our dependencies that we need. So single spa that this is a promise. So then and inside, so we need to call the register application. So this register application meaning that we are registering a single spa or a single micro front end. So the header, then we have the function, and in this case we also have another function that's return true, and here we will return header. So let's just fix the spelling. Okay, then let's just copy paste this part. Then we will also import the footer itself. Okay, so after that one, the last thing that we need to do is start the single spa. All right, and now I guess we're all set up. So what just I did is I've created this root application, which where I bundled the header footer, which is created by Angular and React application. So I've imported it on a script body. So to use it, I just registered each micro frontend in my application, and I've started the single spa. So how can we use this? So I've just installed a serve application. So to run my server. So let's run it. Start. I'm running it on port 4201. So here. So let's try if it's working. So we have an error from localhost, solve their specifier. Let's try to solve that. So error, so unable to resolve their specifier single spa. Okay, it's the error for that. Let's try check. Let's check the error for that one. That's the bug. Yeah, let's try to comment this out for a while. So I think it's causing the error. It's, single spa. Something's wrong with our single spa uh, data. So system.import. Yeah. Function. Yep. Let's try again to run. Start the server. Okay. Let's debug. I'm not sure what's the cause. Let's try this. Okay. I think it's just the space for that one. I'm not sure. Uh, let's try. Sometimes this is hard for debugging. Single spa. Okay. Not sure what's causing the error. Give me around 2 minutes to debug. Mhm. So let's remove. I think one of the microfrontends causing the error. So let's try removing the app.js. So npm run start. Okay. Let's just start our React and Angular server for this one. Start the Angular. Oh, okay. I think it's the server itself. I didn't notice this. Okay, our server is currently starting. Let's try again. Oops. 2.0. Okay. Something's wrong with my headers. Not sure what's causing the error, but I'll just run. Yeah. Okay, let's try this one. So 50618. Let's try a different port. Hey, there you go. It's now working. I'm not sure a while ago. I just restarted the server. So yes, in the header, I created an Angular, and for this one, I've deleted the folder. So let's try the React.js. Mm-hmm. Folder. So let's try. This is the React singles. So it's running now. So let's just have our footer to be displayed in using in the React application. So this one. So let's copy this. So we're displaying it. Let's just start the server. Change Sorry about the comma. Right. So now we have created our micro root front end. So yeah, sorry about that. So there just been some issues on the server. I'm not sure. I just restarted all of the server. So yeah, we can see here in our micro front end applications that we have successfully bundled our apps using single SPA. So in our code, we can see here that I've just used a simple JavaScript, which I imported all of our applications that is running on different servers. So the header is on Angular, so it's running on Angular, and the footer it's running on React.js. And yeah, I've used the register application, which registers each microfrontend in this application, and simply I've started it. So in this case, we can see if we inspect the element that this two parts is running on different apps. So this is not really we cannot see the true power here, but I've just shown you a simple example that yeah, we can really combine two different frameworks using micro front ends. Okay, so uh, I have demoed you the different the two types or the two possible implementations of micro frontend. So your questions here might be: is it really useful in terms of development? So yeah, actually it's really useful. As I have said, it resolves or it solves the monolithic architecture issues, especially in terms of code debugging, and code maintainability. So isolation of code, it's very useful, and it is less dependent, especially in terms of isolating teams. So we are not dependent from each other anymore. And at the same time, maintainability because of the isolation of teams, and it also reduces production issues such that each products or each functions has its own pipelines already. Okay, but micro frontend is very useful, as we can say that we're already isolating the code, but it also has its disadvantages in terms of development. So yeah, as you can see that it has also an additional setup, but thank you for single spa. It already provides all of the schematics. At the same time, we don't need to set up our single spa application, and it does do all the work. But in terms of bundling the application of micro frontends, it's really an additional boilerplate code, at the same time additional effort for us to achieve bundling of apps. And number two is orchestration. So what's orchestration? As I have said, this is the communication between the apps. So this is another additional effort for developers that if you want to have management of the applications in the bundle app itself. So the finer the structure, the harder the orchestration, meaning the larger number of teams that is involved in a micro front end. This means that there's a larger communication and management uh, of sequence between the applications itself. And yeah, with great power comes from great responsibility. And with my suggestions, microfront is useful, but if your application isn't that large, I think it's not really recommended to use microfront, and thus it will really cause some boilerplate codes in our application. Okay, so I guess that's all of my sharing in microfront ends, and I know it's weekend, so have a great day, and I hope you learned a lot from microfront ends.
Okay. So, I think let's look at some of the questions and probably shout outs from our community. Um, okay. Still looking back at the. Um, hmm. Okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah, if you have questions, go ask pala. So some of them are actually
Mm-hmm.
like informational, like oh, let's look at this one. Okay. Anyway, let's read shoutouts first. No, if they have like questions. If you have questions, post them down the comment section. Okay. First is wait. Here's a okay. Anyway, let's just go through all of these kasi medyo di ko alam if there are questions or not.
Yes.
Kasi for example, yan, sabi ni Pojong kanina, it is based on DVD. I do not know which part was that. But baka kanina to. Yan. Event-driven design
I think
daw.
8 for event-driven design. Yeah.
It's also said na integration testing is low due to every microservice might have dependency in other microservices.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, tama si Sir Pojong kasi based on my experience, yun, sa microservice nga, yung orchestration, yung yung communication with each other, nagkakos din yun ng performance issues. So, actually parehas sila in terms of application of microfrontends and microservices. We really need to be careful and ano ba talaga yung mga dapat gawin na microfrontend and microservice. Yeah.
I think dapat depende din yun kung paano siya hinati-hatiin.
Yeah,
Kumbaga, kung
tama.
kaya siya gawin na mas independent, kumbaga, kaya nila to work asynchronously, diba?
Tama.
Kasi
Yeah.
ang hirap na parang in-split mo lang pero parang cascading pa din yung dependency diba? Parang useless din Di sana pinag-isa mo lang kasi syempre like kunwari sa may network diba? Parang separated siya by time.
Yep.
Ayun.
Yun. Tama,
Next
Andre.
is from Hugo
Unit
Forbes.
test.
Yan, unit test.
Yep. Unit test, yan. Actually, ginagawa natin yan for microservices, unit test. Pero not sure kung saan niya sinabi.
Ayan. Web components could be considered as microfrontend.
Yep. Actually, si Angular Elements, same siya kay web components. So, nakita ko kanina, sinabi ni Sir Hugo, ano ba yun? Ayan, parang wala. Actually, yeah. The concept is the same for web components. So, yung napakita ko kanina na bit.dev, consider siya as web components din na pwede natin gamitin throughout our apps. So, very reusable siya. And ang maganda doon, hindi na natin kailangan mag-code from scratch.
Tsaka, ang maganda siya for interoperability. No? Kumbaga parang, pwede mo siyang gamitin sa, isa naman, React, diba? Like, nag-React siya, pwede mo siya i-gamitin din doon.
Pwede. Ang downside lang nun, additional siya. Additional, yun nga, yung sabi ko kanina rin, yung ginawa ko kanina, additional code siya, paano mo ma-integrate si Angular kay React. Pero if you get used to it, and it's really good and it's really flexible. Yep.
Yan. So, sabi din ni Pojong, Angular elements came from Lit Element Framework.
Yes, tama. The Lit Element Framework. Yan yung nauna actually.
Same lang sila. Na ngayon lit na lang.
Lit
na lang siya ngayon.
Lit na lang siya.
At compile time, Angular element will make a web component.
Parang nagkakaroon ata sila ng discussion dyan kanina. Nakita ko ngayon. So, yeah. I think,
okay.
yeah.
I see. Compile time. So, parang ang end result ng code mo, web component na, no? Hindi siya at runtime.
Yes. And ayun, nasabi din ni Sir Pojong na best thing...
question na talaga.
Okay.
Ito. Yan. Best thing
Ayan.
about Angular uses these standards.
Yes, correct, Sir Pojong. Actually, ayun yung isa sa mga advantages ni Angular na parang same na siya halos dun sa pagiging micro frontend. So, yung nagagamit mo na rin siya sa framework. Like singles pa.
Yeah.
So, parang si singles pa kasi, another way siya na talagang ma-integrate mo lahat. Pero kasi si Angular din, na gano'n na rin yung nangyayari. Na-integrate mo na rin sa lahat. So, yeah, good ano yan, good advantage kay Angular.
Kasi ako, nag-dev ako ng both lit at saka ng Angular. So, minsan nalilito ako, like, ay, Angular pala
Yeah.
to.
Angular, yeah, parehas sila actually.
So,
Nakakalito.
halos pareho. Okay. Anyway, sabi ni Jezreel, ayan yung ating, integrating microfrontends in a legacy app is another use case. He did it in a previous project.
Correct. So, na-experience ko na rin yan. Actually, si Angular 1, pwede rin siya kay singles pa. And, medyo mahirap, depending on the use case also. Ayun nga. Pero, once you set it up naman, okay naman na siya. But, ako kasi, I recommend na, yun nga, yung sa legacy kasi, yeah, they're doing it, but, may recommendations na migrate it na instead of just bundling it in the microfrontend app. Yeah.
I see. Ito, question from Carlo. Learning React, but I feel like I should learn Angular instead, since Angular is an actual framework. Should I make the switch to be efficient in my learning?
Actually, yeah. Thank you, Sir Carlo, for the question. No, actually, React is also good. Yeah, but Angular, to compare ko na lang yung dalawa. Actually, I'm using both in my company. I'm using Angular, nagre-React Native din ako. But, yan nga, tama yung sinabi mo. Angular is more of a framework kasi. Si React kasi, may nagkakaroon sila ng notion na framework. Pero, kung tutusin, kung titingnan mo, library lang talaga siya. But, it depends on you pa rin kasi kung ano yung magagamit mo in terms of dun sa application. Si Angular talaga nag-o-offer ng mga routings, hindi ka na kailangan mag-install sa HTTP like Axios. Ang advantage lang ni React, library siya. So ikaw yung may freedom na makapili kung ano yung mga kailangan mo library. So maganda rin si React, nag-o-offer din siya ng ganun. Meron silang advantage, disadvantage. So it's okay to still learn React. Continuous lang. Pero kung gusto mo pa mag-explore ng iba pang framework, yeah, go. Mas madami mag-open ng doors and especially sa jobs. So, si React kasi ngayon, in demand din siya as well as Angular. So, okay lang kahit ano dyan.
So, ito kasing si Angular, parang like, there's like a single way to do it. Unlike kunwari with React na parang ang daming pwedeng daan papunta sa isang sagot.
Yes, tama.
Diba?
Tama, Andre. Yeah.
So, kung gusto mo matuto na parang like isang path talaga, yan, may Angular. Pero pag gusto mo na parang iba't ibang entry point papunta sa isang solution, yan. Okay si React doon.
Tama. Yeah, actually, yun yung advantage ni Angular na na-experience ko na rin yan na if you transfer from one company to another, halos same kasi yun yung ginagamit nila. Pero, meron ding pinagkaiba kasi other companies like state management, they differ like NGRX, Akita, yun lang yung pinagkaiba pero the way, it's the same. In React, I've transferred from one project. So, minsan burst yung utak ko. Ano to? Ba't iba itong ginagamit nila? Tapos yung way ng paggamit nila ng Redux, yeah, it's different. So, yun yung pero in terms of performance talaga, React, it's really good compared to Angular. Yeah.
Ito, may question tayo from Edward Lee. How would you maintain consistency across the entire application in terms of styling if we're using Shadow DOM? Do we remove the Shadow DOM?
No, actually. So, maintain consistency across the entire application. So, depende na yan sa teams eh. So, nag-share pa rin naman sila ng yung chunk of application. So, just think of it as a project na pinag-iwa-hiwalay. But, in terms, parang ina-assign lang sila into different teams. So, yun. So,
kasi parang maiba yata ang styling, even na parang
yes.
parang,
Baka,
diba?
I think yung naisip ni Sir Edward is hiwa-hiwalay sila, baka walang communication or something, but in terms of that meron naman. So even as kami naka micro frontends kami. So yun, may fina-follow din pa kaming standards with that.
Ito, question from Ben. Ayan, pwede ba yan in terms of hacking na?
Hacking. Actually, lahat naman ng application may risk of hacking. So, yun. In micro frontend, possible din yun na pwede nang gamitin. Pero in monolithic naman din kasi possible. So, any possible. So, ang tingin ko lang ang ano dito is, kaya we're creating some design patterns like API gateways. And yun, sa course, another field na rin kasi to na pwede natin gamitin. But, kunyari, may hack sila na iba yung data storage. So, one part lang yung ma-hack nila. So, I think that's one advantage also of microfrontend.
So, parang pwede natin i-recommend na like to, ano mo yun, i-obfuscate or, di ba?
Yeah,
parang hindi mo reverse engineer, gawin mong mas complex.
Mas complex. Ang drawback lang sa developers.
Sa developers.
Tsaka ano rin, with great power comes from great responsibility. Mas maraming front micro, mas madugo.
Kasi maraming parang, di ba? Ang hirap mag-maintain pag madami kaysa isa lang.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Ito sabi ni Pojong, in Angular element uses shadow DOM.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
kasi
Shadow
siya,
DOM,
web component.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's a good thing about Angular element and Lit. Okay. Ito from Jezreel. Since wala nung ang haba. If gusto mo opinionated, go with Angular. Pero if you want freedom, go with React. Or you can continue React and kapag comfortable ka na with your knowledge with React, try Angular. Majority ng knowledge mo applicable naman.
Yeah, tama. Angular kasi talaga opinionated yan. Tinatawag si Angular, by the way, MVW. So what does MVW means? Model view whatever. So yun. Actually sa structure pinag-debatean pa rin yan sa folder. Actually si Angular din. But may mga developers na gumawa na ng standards if ano ba talaga yung gusto mong i-follow na standards sa pagdating na pag-develop, yung pag-architect ng application mo. So yun. Yun yung mga ways. But kung tatanungin niyo ako ano ba talaga yung gusto niyo gamitin, Angular and React, even though na first ako naging Angular, I will not choose any of them kasi parehas silang may win-win.
Yeah. Siguro okay kasi mas parang minsan beginner friendly si si React.
Mas
kasi parang
beginner
ang daming jargon ni Angular.
Yeah, tama.
So, parang ano yung directives, ano yung input.
Yeah, tama.
'Di ba?
Yeah. Even the observables, so pag nagme-mentor ako about observables, parang yung mukha nila hindi mo maipinta na what in the world is observables. Ayun yung mga si React kasi nag-start with JSX Ngayon may TypeScript na sila. So based on my experience, ayaw din nila ng TypeScript, lalo mga developers kasi ang laki kasi talagang library ni TypeScript. So yan yung isa din sa mga nagpapahirap. And one also is RxJS. So yan yung isa yun sa mga additional libraries na ginagamit ni Angular, which is pwede rin naman kay React. Pero yun, si React kasi kung gusto niyo matuto ng component component based na framework, mas madali si React. Even Vue, mas madali siyang matutunan.
Okay. So I guess wala nang questions, no? Ayun, may mga shoutouts na lang tayo. From Noity.
Yeah, I know.
Go Sensei G.
Yeah, ayun yung tawag nila sa akin.
Tivax. Yan. Ito naman from Glenn. Ayan. So, congrats PWA for second year.
Hi, Glenn. Yeah. From Angular PH also.
Ayan. Meron pa ba? Hanap pa tayo sa taas. Ayan. Ismael De La Torre, good evening. Katrina Kumayas, yan. Good evening po. Julie, good evening from PUP Maragondon, no? Parang daming taga Cavite.
Daming taga Cavite.
Oo nga eh. From Zaki Soriano, good evening. Miguel, good evening. Maxine, good evening. Jericho, good evening. Oh, ang dami. Sarah May. Yan. DICT student from PUP Maragondon. Kenneth, at loyal yan, nasa atin. Christian May, yan. Nanalo yun ng shirt sa amin. So, congrats. Good good morning naman kay Podjong kasi nasa ano siya. Other country. Ito si CJ, Sir CJ. Yan.
Hey,
Shout out
Sir
Lodi.
CJ. Hi. Hello, sir. Ruby on Rails
Hello
left
po.
the room.
Ay.
Wag naman.
Yan. Ito last na habol na lang natin. If you want to protect your app, in terms of styling, implement Shadow DOM. Pero if you want the app to adopt a styling, kung saan siya gagamitin, don't use Shadow DOM. Yan.
Yeah.
Tama. Mm-mm.
So, Shadow DOM parang sub 3 lang yan na yan for may virtual DOM din Shadow DOM if you want to know more about deep pwede niyong basahin yan.
Mm-mm. Pag ayaw niyo mag-leak yung style. Diba? Kasi set ka ng style sa may taas, tapos minsan nagli-leak siya sa baba. So, para sa component lang na
Yeah.
Yan. Ito last few shoutouts before tayo Sir Pojong, thank you daw for sharing.
Thank you also.
Tsaka
And si Sir Pojong parang madalas na
Oo.
nanonood.
Tsaka from Gabriel, John, good evening daw. Yan.
Good evening.
So once again, Seiji, thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. Kahit medyo gabi na. So, thank you. I mean, di ba? Kanina ka pa yata nagla-live. So,
Actually, 5:30 pa. That's
oo,
okay.
thank you sa sa pagiging active sa tech community.
Yeah, thank you also din sa pag-invite ulit dito. Yan.
Saan
Sa susunod
kanila
ulit.
pwedeng hanapin? Saan kanila pwedeng hanapin?
Yeah.
Gusto
Pwede
nilang
kong
magtanong or-
I'll just send my slide also, Andre, sa inyo. Tapos, if pwede nyo, hanapin nyo Facebook or GitHub, Seiji Villafranca, madali lang hanapin yung pangalan. You can message me anytime if you have questions. Yep.
Yan. Okay. And thank you daw from Sir Card. Thank you din from Krisha, from Justin,
Thank you din.
to Albert, to Jezreel, ayan. And Christian as well.
Yeah.
Yan. Okay. Dito ba si Lem? Pipicture tayo. Wala yata siya. Anyway, ganito lang So, ipopoint natin yung kamay natin sa may gitna ng frame.
Ay, baliktad.
Baliktad.
Voltes 5.
Lem, asan ka na?
Ayan. Sorry.
Ayun na ba?
Wait lang, paano ulit yun?
Ayun na siya.
Dito. Ayan. Okay.
Ayan.
Aim. Pwede na.
Yan. Sige
Okay.
na. Yep.
Okay, game.
1,
1, 2, 2, 3.
3.
Okay.
Yan.
Good.
Okay na.
Thank you ulit, guys.
Okay.
Thank you, Lem and
Thank
Andre.
you ulit, Seiji.
Thank you.
Yan. So, before natin i-end yung program, mag-a-announce lang. Magte-thank you lang tayo sa mga dapat nating pag-thank youan. Yan. Anyway, bakit ito pa? Ayan. So, yung mga remaining pa tayo, pakita ko lang to. So, natapos na po yung basics natin last few weeks ago. Tapos, nasa advanced part na tayo. So, last August 18, nagka-talk tayo about workbox and service workers, tapos yung today, yung kay Seiji, nakatapos lang. Tapos meron pa bukas, Jordan Adler naman yung SEO for web developers. Tapos August 28, real-time web application with Signal R with Jezreel Maguyop. Ayan. Nanonood sa atin ngayon. Tsaka August 28, wala ako. Kapit lang internet. Containerized deployment for your SPA and API with Rob Richardson. Yan. Yun. If na-miss nyo yung mga talks before, gusto yung panoorin, nasa app lang namin siya. visit nyo lang app.pwpilipinas.org. Nasa Google Play din siya, tsaka Microsoft Store. Nasa Facebook kami, Twitter, LinkedIn. May email kami if may proposal kayo or anything. Or gusto nyo mag-volunteer. So, meron din kaming website. Yan. So, mag-thank you muna tayo sa mga sponsors at tsaka community partners. So, AWS, thank you. AWS, Amazon Web Services. Yan, buhay natin. Tsaka sa OmniQuotient, Angel Hack, React.js Philippines, Google Developer Student Club, AMA Computer College Caloocan, Algo Filipino, na thank you dun sa pub, Angular Philippines, Phil IT Org, Computer Professionals Union, tsaka sa upper.ph para sa StreamYard. Kaya nakapag-stream tayo sa YouTube, at tsaka Twitter, tsaka Facebook. Ayan. So, if gusto nyo mag-volunteer, email lang kayo sa amin. Please, mag-volunteer kayo. Ayan. Anyway, mga partner ganap. Ayan. So, first is yung sa OmniQuotient. If gusto nyo ng community for developers, yan. Kung gusto nyo mag-share ng mga codes nyo or may questions kayo about different topics about web dev, about anything about programming, yan. May OmniQuotient tayo. New Energy Nexus na hackathon, updates ay nasa Facebook page natin. Yan yung Angular Meetup, kanina nandun ako kanila Seiji. Yan, so web superpowers. So meron pa meron pa sila sa August, sorry yung live screen ko. August 28. Ito si Santosh naman to, no. Angular GDE siya, so kailan natin yung mga Angular GDEs. Yan, getting productive with Angular. So if interested kayo sa Angular, yan. Ito, mga hackathon partners natin. So, build a modern data app ng data stacks. September 3 to 5, kung mahilig kayo sa hackathons, no, bit.ly/Pilipinas-Ph. Yan. Tapos, Space Apps Challenge, malapit na October 2 to 3, 2021. 10 years na ng Space Apps. Yan. So, kung gusto nyo ng, bumuo ng solutions using Earth data ng NASA, yan. So, sali kayo sa spaceapps.co. Tapos, PWA Summit, kung gusto pa matuto about PWAs, ayan, October 6 and 7, visit nyo pwsummit.org. Meron silang parang, tawag dito? May coding sila. Tuturuan nila kayo mag-PWA on those. Pero, mag-sign up na kayo kasi limited slots lang siya. So, October 6 and 7. So, may ibang talks din yan. So, organized pa ng Microsoft, Intel, Google, Samsung Internet. Yan. Anyway, ayan. So, we want your feedback. Kung nag-enjoy ba kayo sa talk ni Seiji, gusto naming marinig. Fill up nyo to, bit.ly/PWA-form. So, pag pinilapan nyo yan, pakilagay po yung full name kasi gagawa namin kayo ng e-certificate. So, pag hindi siya full name, baka mahirapan namin kayong gawa ng certificate. So, pakilagay na lang yung full name. Yan. So, pag nag-fill up din kayo dyan, kasama kayo sa raffle for this shirt. So, natin yung shirt niyan, limited edition yan. So, one winner kada draw. So, tapos na tayo sa draw last time, August 15. So, may next pa tayong draw ng August 23 tsaka 29. So, pwede pa kayong umabol. So, dalawa yung pipiliin. First is for the shirt, tapos merong isang mananalo ng goodies from us. So, last time nanalo si Krisha. Yan, nanonood siya sa atin. So, congrats sa shirt. Sana, mag-selfie ka with the shirt para na matuwa kami. Yan. Alam namin dumating yung shirt. Oo. Tapos, from Christopher din, meron siyang goodies. So, pipili siya kung yung goodies na gusto niya. Ayun. So, ayan. Sabi ni, sir, anyway, ilang na may nasa slides ko. Remove ko na siya. Ayan, sige daw. Sige. From Pojong, CDK or either Terraform or AWS. Sige po. Actually, may mga list of topics from AWS. So, pipili lang talaga kami. So, if may sinuggest kayo, ayan, baka mag-organize kami. Basta gusto ng community. Yan. Kasi last time, di ba, nag-invite tayo ng speaker from AWS about Amplify. Sorry, makalimutin ako. Amplify. Pero ang gusto niya ng ibang AWS services naman, yan, sige, go lang. Okay. So, ito naman si Glenn, goodies. Yan. So, sali lang kayo sa mag-fill up kayo ng form para magkaroon kayo ng e-certificate tsaka makasama kayo sa raffle for a shirt or a goodie. Yun. Yan lang. So, I guess, no, anong oras na magpahinga na tayo. Kasi meron pa bukas. Yan. Ulit, no? Meron ka bang gustong i-share, Lem? Or like, wala na? Okay ka na ba?
Wala na, goods na.
Wala. Okay, so, ako si Andy Cito de Guzman ng Pilipinas and si Lem. So, kita-kits bukas.
Lem Adan yan.
Oo. With Lem Adan. Kita-kits bukas para sa another talk. So, yan. At yun nga, given na bibigyan tayo ng short ng AWS, watch natin iwan namin kayo ng video ad from AWS. So, yan na. Magbababay na kami. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Cloud computing is the on-demand delivery of IT resources via the internet, with pay-as-you-go pricing. Instead of buying, owning, and maintaining physical data centers and servers, you can access technology services such as computing power, storage, and databases on an as-needed basis from a cloud provider like Amazon Web Services. Organizations of every type, size, and industry are using the cloud for a wide variety of use cases, such as data backup, disaster recovery, email, virtual desktops, software development and testing, big data analytics, and customer-facing web applications. For example, healthcare companies are using the cloud to develop more personalized treatments for patients. Financial services companies are using the cloud to power real-time fraud detection and prevention. And video game makers are using the cloud to deliver online games to millions of players around the world. With cloud computing, your business can become more agile, reduce costs, instantly scale, and deploy globally in minutes. Cloud computing gives you instant access to a broad range of technologies so you can innovate faster and build nearly anything you can imagine. From infrastructure services such as compute, storage, and databases, to Internet of Things, machine learning, data analytics, and much more. You can deploy technology services in a matter of minutes and get from idea to implementation several orders of magnitude faster than before. This gives you the freedom to experiment and test new ideas to differentiate customer experiences and transform your business, such as adding machine learning and intelligence to your applications in order to personalize experiences for your customers and improve their engagement. You don't need to make large upfront investments in hardware and overpay for capacity you don't use. Instead, you can trade capital expense for variable expense and only pay for IT as you consume it. With cloud computing, you access resources from the cloud in real time, as they're needed. You can scale these resources up and down to grow or shrink capacity instantly as your business needs change. Cloud computing also makes it easy to expand to new regions and deploy globally in minutes. For example, Amazon Web Services has infrastructure all over the world, so you're able to deploy your application in multiple physical locations in just a few clicks. Putting applications in closer proximity to end users reduces latency and improves their experience. No matter your location, size, or industry, the cloud frees you from managing infrastructure and data centers so you can focus on what matters most to your business.